Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about tonight, including the Pirates over 500. They signed a couple of guys. There was a perfect game that was not to be, and Joe Madden lost his mind. We'll get into that. We'll also talk about Baker Mayfield. Should the Steelers bring him in if there's a chance of that happening? But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Penguins, who are 3 points ahead of the Washington Capitals, who are bearing down on them, and now an injury, and a big one, to their goaltender. We'll talk about that, and here's your panel. We have Josh Yohe, who covers the Penguins very nicely with The Athletic. We also have Andrew Fillipponi, host of the PM team, every day 2 to 6 on 93.7 The Fan, plus his Pony Express show over the weekend, and Colin Dunlap, host of the Fan Morning Show. So we got some big hitters here. We're going to start with Tristan Jarry. So, Colin, you are one of those out there, and others saying that this could be a broken bone in a foot. The Penguins, of course, have not necessarily said anything other than its lower body. But, Josh, I want to start with you. What do the Penguins do if this lingers into the playoffs and he can't play in that first round? We don't know that for sure at this point, but how do they compensate for a loss of Tristan Jarry?
I don't know if they do, Bob. Casey DeSmith is a perfectly competent backup goalie. I don't really envision a scenario where he beats the Rangers or the Florida Panthers or the Carolina Hurricanes. The Penguins are going to play one of those three teams, and they're three of the best offensive teams in hockey. It's really a nightmare scenario for the Penguins. They took a chance, and they could have gone out and gotten another veteran goaltender to play behind Tristan Jarry, but like a lot of teams, they took that chance. If the New York Rangers' great goalie Shesterkin gets hurt, guess what? They're probably screwed too. That's the situation the Penguins are in right now. They can try to play better defensively in front of him and hope that Tristan Jarry comes back at some point during the first round, which is possible. But just from people I talked with in Boston yesterday, they are bracing for Casey DeSmith to play in game one of the playoffs. That was really clear to me, and I don't know how much confidence the Penguins really have in this guy. Like I said, he's a fine backup, but he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's going to steal a series.
Well, it is a broken bone in his foot, Bob. I found that out the other day, and they were waiting for the swelling to go down, and then they were trying to confirm that. Now, the length and the depth of how long the injury will be out and just how severe it is and what bone it is, that was what the debate was. So it is a broken bone in his foot, and that's what I've been told. That being said, maybe I'm missing something here, but look, Jarry was not good in last year's playoffs. And the run of form in the past, 45 days or so, is there that much of an expanse or divide where you go into these playoffs and you say that Casey DeSmith couldn't get it together and do something akin to what Tristan Jarry could do? I don't think that – first of all, the Penguins need to score more goals, especially 5-on-5. But that being said, if the Penguins have a chance, I don't think it greatly diminishes because Casey DeSmith is going to play and not Tristan Jarry.
Yeah, I wasn't going to pick the Penguins over the Rangers because of Jarry. He choked in last year's playoffs. And so he's still got to go out and prove that now. He doesn't get an opportunity. That stinks because you'll have questions about him long term. My bigger problem is that now you have one NHL goaltender instead of two. And so many times in the playoffs, like last year, they didn't have a plan B when Jarry struggled. You need that. And so I'm disappointed in that respect. I don't think it'll prevent them from beating the Rangers. I think one of the things that people don't say enough about the Rangers, because they have great guys at the top like Kreider having a career year and Panarin, and now they got, what's his name, Kako back, Bob? Or did I mix it up? Thank you. You know they're one of the worst. Hey, did you know they're one of the worst 5-on-5 scoring teams in the NHL? That's not that is fact. They are not a big goal scoring team, the New York Rangers. They have big names. They don't put a lot of pucks behind goaltenders. So I've seen Dwayne Rolison beat the Penguins. I've seen Yaroslav Halak, when he was Carey Price's backup, get hot. And I've seen guys like Jeff Zatkoff and Peter Angelo and Kenny Reggett win series for the Penguins. So I'm not ruling them out because I'm still going to pick them to beat the Rangers. I'll put it that way.
Josh, let me ask you this. Yesterday, Mike Sullivan said this, and he says it a lot whenever this happens. Quote, "We weren't ready at the start of the game." And I'm wondering, who does that fall on? We always talk about Mike Tomlin. Whenever the blame comes about slow starts, it's the coach. In this scenario, I always put blame on players because those are the guys who do it. But Josh, when he says that, is he sending a message? What's he doing?
I think he's taking a mild shot at his players, yes. And We see it a lot with this team in the beginning of periods. We see it a lot with this team in afternoon games. It's a trend. I mean, it's been going on for a while now. I thought they played very well for the final 58 minutes of that game. It was a dead even game, but they were asleep at the beginning of the game. You can't do that, Bob. And they've played 5 Eastern Conference playoff teams in the last month since the trade deadline. The record in those games is 0-5-0. It's hard for me to feel good about this team right now. It's just a situationally bad hockey team. And I agree with you guys. It doesn't mean Casey DeSmith can't win a series. Sure, he can. But they were already going to be an underdog given the way they're playing right now, no matter who they played. I think without Jarry, if indeed he can't go, it just makes them even more of an underdog.
I'm just having a hard time understanding the shelf life of the leash that Mike Sullivan gets on winning these Stanley Cups. This is a league in which you go through a 3-game losing streak in November and seemingly you get fired. So that being said, if the Penguins do go out in the first round of these playoffs, and I don't know if they will or not, but let's say they do, will losing Jarry simply be the excuse that allows Mike Sullivan to not be on the hot seat again? Or are we really going to talk about the Penguins going out again and potentially Mike Sullivan, losing his job or at the very least being on the hot seat? What do they not have to do for the organization to potentially look at a different coach? That's my question here.
Well, he never gets blamed for stuff. I mean, that's the bottom line, is that Mike Sullivan, I think, has reached the Mike Tomlin status where you just feel like any conversation about him losing his job is pointless, futile, because of how respected he is by not just the Penguins, but around the league. So I hear you, Colin, with short exits, I mean, it just feels like it's a non-starter, and very few hockey coaches make it to that point with the team they're working for. But that's where we are with Mike Sullivan. I think Bob's question about who do you blame, players or coaches, is interesting. Bob, so you blame the players for what happened in Boston at the start?
Yep.
So then let me ask you a question. Does that fall on Sidney Crosby?
It falls on the players.
But how about Crosby as the captain?
Well, they all should take blame in that.
But Bob, I'm asking you if you should take the most blame. I'm asking you if you should take the most blame.
I'm saying all the players.
Look, I love Sid, but I think that's on him then. He's the guy that is supposed to be the compass and the heartbeat of the team. He's got a C on his sweater for a reason. If you're not going to blame the coach and the players come out flat, that's the leadership in the dressing room. And we talk about him as a great leader because he is. But we can't do selective leadership. If he exhibits great leadership 99% of the time, the 1% when he does it, we need to call him out for it. So I'm happy that you're blaming Sidney Crosby, Bob.
That's a fair point. Now up against a break here. We got to take it. When we come back, we're going to shift into some football talk, specifically Baker Mayfield, who looks like he's going to be with a new team. Hasn't yet. Would the Steelers make room for him? We'll talk about that when we continue. It's the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown right here on KDKA-TV.